Don't think I'm on yet. Good morning, everyone. How are you doing today? Anybody doing not so well today? It's a beautiful morning. Can you even hear me? Am I on? I'm on. Excellent. Yes. What a lovely day. Sun's been shining out there last couple of days. My wife sent me a picture. She's down in California, you might be aware. She sent me a picture of her feet in water, and she said, it's 75 degrees there. I sent her a picture back. It's 55 degrees there here and sun shining. We have a little bit of fun doing that. We're in Exodus, out of bondage. You may recall we've finished up Genesis, the family of Jacob, and now we're looking at, for at least the next couple of weeks, Exodus, the out of bondage, the continuation of Jacob's family's story as we look at it. Just as a recap, last week we looked at the burning bush in Exodus 3. We saw how Moses was attracted to it because it wasn't burning up. And so he went over to see it. We saw how God talked to him, talked about the holy ground that he was walking on to take off his sandals. And at the end of chapter 3, he's told that you're the guy. You're my guy that's going to go and let my people free, lead them to freedom. Now, you may also recall where he's located right now. He's over there in Meridian, over in this area. And the people of that area are descendants of Abraham with his second wife, Keturah. And so these are all, he's quite a distance away, rather, from Egypt. You probably recall the story about why he's there. You know, he interfered in a fight that was going on and killed the Egyptian. And then the next time he saw two Hebrews fighting, they said, are you going to kill us like you killed the Egyptian? So he left the nation of Egypt because he feared for his life. So now he's living in this area. He has a wife, 2 sons. He's working for Jethro, taking care of sheep, or as a shepherd. And now he's given a new task, a new mission, so to say. So if you would, turn over to Exodus, the 4th chapter. We'll start here in a second. Let's have a word of prayer. Father in heaven, we're so thankful that we had this morning to gather and to learn from your word, to understand the story of Jacob's family, the amazing way that you kept them alive. You worked with them so that it was your power and not theirs that caused the things to happen to this family. We're grateful for the weather we're having now. We know that the seasons change, and the things that we look forward to, the planting of seeds, the raising of crops, and the harvesting later that follows that. We're so grateful for these opportunities you give us and the world that you made for us. And in Christ's name we pray. Now, one of the things about Moses, he doesn't really take to this task exceptionally quickly. Oh, a little bit of humor today. Bill Knoll came up and gave me a play on GMO, genetically altered stuff. This is a GMO. This is a geometrically modified carrot. It has 4 sides. They pack easier, and they are able to perform way better. So I thought you had to share that with you. I think that's clever. Now back to the story today. In chapter 4, Moses answered, "What if the people of Israel do not believe me or listen to me? What if they say the Lord did not appear to you?" Now, isn't that a reasonable question? I've heard some sermons in the past. They've talked about how Moses doubted, and so he was, being a little contentious. Maybe I've heard it said, but I think that's a reasonable question to ask. I mean, here you are. You've been living out in the desert, making a living, getting by, herding sheep, and here you have a new task. You're going to go to these people, and you're going to tell them that you're here to lead them out of this bondage. And so he's concerned about that. The Lord said to him, "What is that in your hand?" Moses answers, "My walking stick," or my staff. However you want to look at it. Maybe it was a shepherd's crook, but some kind of stick that he used, that he walked with, but he probably helped guide the animals around. When he was doing that, the Lord said, "Throw it on the ground." So he threw it on the ground there. And it became a snake. Moses ran from the snake. Seems like a reasonable thing to do. You see a snake there in front of you, I'm not standing by it. But the Lord said to him, "Reach out and grab the snake by its tail." I'm getting a little concerned now. And when Moses reached out and took hold of the snake, it again became a stick in his hand. The Lord said, "This is so that the Israelites will believe that the Lord appeared to you. I am the God of their ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." Has anyone ever tried picking up a snake by its tail? What happened, Wes? It just wiggles around in it. It doesn't become a stick. All right? And I don't know what type of snake this was. I guess I'd be impressed if it was a rattlesnake or something like that, but, it doesn't say what type of snake. I also was kind of curious as to why the Lord used a snake to prove his point there. And when you look back at ancient times, snakes had a lot of different meanings, and way too many to go into for our class today, but it was a significant thing to see a serpent, if you will, as being changed from a stick, walking stick, changed into a serpent and then back again. That was a significant thing for those people. So the Lord knew exactly what would impress the Israelites. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Put your hand inside your coat." So Moses put his hand inside his coat. When he took it out, it was white with a skin disease. Your translation may say leprosy. But there was something that transformed when he took his hand out. Then he said, "Now put your hand inside your coat again." So Moses put his hand inside his coat again. When he took it out, his hand was healthy again, like the rest of his skin. That's a pretty impressive miracle that he just saw. You recall back in those days, that type of skin disease, leprosy and anything like that, was incurable. And they would many times sequester people in colonies or areas, at least to kept them the right way from the rest of the people. So that was, at that time, that would have been a great miracle to happen in front of me, to have my leprosy removed, my skin disease healed. Then the Lord said, "If the people do not believe you or pay attention to the first miracle, they may believe you when you show them the second miracle." So what he's saying here is there's those that will believe you on the first one. Yep, no one can do that but God. But then there'll be some that just don't believe it on the first one, but they believe you on the second one. So you got those that immediately take it and those that are a little hesitant. You see that happening over in the New Testament too. When Jesus did miracles, there were those that believed him because of those miracles. There were those that claimed he was doing it by the power of the devil. So the Lord knows that there are people that will quickly understand and see what's going on and believe it, and there are others that will be slow to accept that. Then the Lord said in verse 8, "If the people do not believe you or pay attention to the first miracle, they may believe you when you show them the second miracle. After these two miracles, if they still do not believe or listen to you, take some water from the Nile River, pour it on the dry ground. The water will become blood when it touches the ground." But Moses said to the Lord, "Please, Lord, I have never been a skilled speaker, Even now, after talking to you, I cannot speak well. I speak slowly, and I can't find the best words. Now, I've often wondered, how was he really talking? You know, when I read this, I try to read it in a way that's you can follow it. Maybe he said, I can not speak well. I speak slowly and can't find the best words. Maybe that's how he said it. I don't know. For some reason, he felt that he was not a skilled speaker. And I think you can understand that. How many of you like to go see somebody that's just an extremely poor speaker? You want to hear somebody that can at least deliver a line well. You'll tolerate certain weaknesses in a speaker, but you're really wanting to hear somebody that can speak to you, so to say, that actually is able to say it in a way that you're able to follow and understand. Then the Lord said to him in verse 11, who made a person's mouth? And who makes someone deaf or not able to speak? Or who gives a person sight or blindness? It is I, the Lord. Now go. I will help you speak, and I will teach you what to say. Wouldn't that be nice? To be able to know that God is going to help you speak and help you know what to say. I wouldn't have stayed up so late last night if that was the case. But Moses, actually God helped me. He's given me all the scripture I need to teach this lesson. All the information I need is before me. And so he is helping me to speak. I just have to be willing to accept what it says and faithfully teach it. But Moses said, please, Lord, send someone else. Do you think he was anxious to do this? Do you think he was hesitant to do this? Think about the times in your life when you have been given a task before you and you just wish you weren't the one doing it. Have you ever been there? I know I have. I've had to do it. I've had to go and talk to someone. I've had to take on a task and organize things. I've had to talk to angry people and try to figure out how to get past their anger, let alone get past mine. Moses, I believe, recognizes the challenge that God is laying before him. Remember, where did he grow up? He grew up in Egypt. He grew up in Pharaoh's house. He totally understood, I think at least, the people of Egypt. The Israelites, he knew them. I don't know that as to whether he knew them as well as the Egyptians because he had grown up in the Egyptian in Pharaoh's house, but he understood the daunting task that was being put upon him. The Lord became angry with Moses and said, your brother Aaron from the family of Levi is a skilled speaker. He is already coming to meet you, and he will be happy when he sees you. You will speak to Aaron and tell him what to say. I will help both of you to speak and will teach you what to do. Aaron will speak to the people for you. You will tell him what God says, and he will speak for you. Take your walking stick with you and use it to do the miracles. Okay, he's got ammunition. He's got his walking stick. He's got his brother Aaron who's going to be able to speak. I would love to have heard Aaron. If God recommends Aaron as a speaker, he must have been amazing to listen to. And so here Moses, God has given him everything he needs to accomplish his mission. And so Moses returns to Egypt. Let's see, let me catch up here. So Moses returns to Egypt. Moses went back to Jethro, his father-in-law, and said to him, let me go back to my people in Egypt. I want to see if they are still alive. Notice he didn't say anything about going and leading them out of bondage. He just wants to go see if they're alive. Jethro says to Moses, go, I wish you well. Now, in contrast, when Jacob left Laban many years ago, Laban was a bit upset. Here, Jethro is quite supportive. Go, I wish you would. While Moses was still in Midian, the Lord said to him, go back to Egypt, because the men who wanted to kill you are dead now. So it's been long enough to where those that were angry with Moses are wanting to try to kill him for the actions he took with by killing the Egyptians. Dead now, so he's able to go back. So Moses took his wife and sons, put them on a donkey, and started back to Egypt. He took with him the walking stick of God. So he's heading back. Now recall, he's not going to do that journey in a 4 or 5 hours. He's going quite a distance to get back to Egypt. So he's got some traveling ahead of him. As Moses was on his way to Egypt, he stopped at a resting place for the night. Everybody can understand that. You're driving along, it's been all day, you've been driving, and you decide you're going to pull over, and so you find a place to stop. And the Lord met him. Just one thing about the Bible is that some things are clear, some things are foggy, and then there are just some things that are just hard. So, caution you, there's a sign here, road ahead is bumpy and dangerous. So this is an interesting area. And I'm not going to be able to solve it for you if you have any questions, nor is the class intent upon this. But it talks about in 25, but Zipporah, Moses' wife, took a flint knife and circumcised her son. Taking the skin, she touched Moses' feet with it and said to him, you are a bridegroom of blood to me. She said, you are a bridegroom of blood, because she had to circumcise his son. So the Lord let Moses live, alone rather. Now, your version may be a little bit different. Let me share with you why I stayed up late last night. When you research this, Hebrew scholars are still undecided whether God sought to kill Moses or his son. Keep in mind, verse 24 does not clearly give the answer, though the pronoun him seems to have its antecedent in Moses in verse 21. Moses knew all Israelites were to be circumcised on the 8th day of their lives. And you can see that in Genesis 17, 9 through 14. However, his wife Zipporah was not an Israelite, but a Midianite, who obviously did not follow the Abrahamic covenant of circumcision, though the Midianites were descendants of Abraham through his second wife, Keturah. And you can see that in Genesis 25, 1 through 2. Apparently, here's where speculation begins, and there's no clear scripture for it. Apparently, Moses failed to circumcise his son because potentially of her objection to the practice. Now, I stop here to say you can find somebody else that disagrees with this and has another set of reasoning. There in Midian, that area, circumcision was practiced, but they waited till the child was 13 years old for many of them in that area. And so it's just not clear. Exodus 4 shows that Moses is returning to Egypt to lead God's people, Israel, to the promised land, did not have his own house in subjection. And so God could not allow his direct representative to lead the entire nation of Israel when he had not himself faithfully brought his family under the covenant, of which circumcision was a sign. That God acted to cut him off illustrates just how seriously God takes our commitment or lack thereof to his covenant. Now, I think this is a reasonable explanation. However, there are others that will describe that Moses probably was not circumcised either, at least not in the way that Abraham or the requirements of the Israelites, where the foreskin was removed. And there was a form of circumcision practice in Egypt where instead of removing the foreskin, it was just simply split. And so therefore, that's the reason why Zipporah went and did what she did. Others have said Midianite culture, the women did the circumcision. That's why she knew how to do it. Then there's a nice little debate on why she was using a flint knife. You get my point. There's a lot of information out there. I recommend you, it's a good study. You will come to the same conclusion that no one knows the answer But this section here is a difficult one. But I do think it illustrates that God's very serious about his commands. And if, in fact, Moses neglected to have his son circumcised when he was 8 days old, this moment is when Moses' house was put into order. And so then he could go on and take on the mission that he was going to do. Any comments on that? I'm glad I was able to clear that one up. Verse 27. Meanwhile, I love that phrase. While this was going on, something else was happening at the exact same time. The Lord said to Aaron, "Go out to the desert to meet Moses." When Aaron went, he met Moses at Mount Sinai, the mountain of God, and kissed him. Moses told Aaron everything the Lord had said to him when he sent him to Egypt. He also told him about the miracles which the Lord had commanded him to do. So here you can see Aaron and Moses getting together. Moses talking to him about what's going to happen. Here's our job. This is what we're going to do. I would have loved to have seen the questions Aaron asked, or his face, just to understand his view of what he was about to take on. Because Moses asked God some good questions. I just wonder if Aaron asked those to his brother. Moses and Aaron gathered all the elders of the Israelites, and Aaron told them everything that the Lord had told Moses. Then Moses did the miracles for all the people to see, and the Israelites believed. When they heard that the Lord was concerned about them and had seen their trouble, and worshipped him. What a day that must have been. The Israelites have, hey, God has remembered us. Here's the two men who are going to lead us out of here. This is like easy. Yeah, we're gone. It's over with. This burden we have with the Egyptians is over. This bond. And so, Moses and Aaron go before the king. Exodus, the 5th chapter. After Moses and Aaron talked to the people, they went to the king of Egypt, or Pharaoh, and said, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Let my people go, so they may hold a feast for me in the desert." And there's that phrase, let my people go. They're said to Pharaoh. Now you got to remember these folks in charge here, this Pharaoh, his entourage, his people surrounding him. At that time, they're the most powerful people on the land in that area. What they say happens. Your life can be taken if the king so says, the Pharaoh so says. And none of them know who Joseph was. None of them. None of them know or remember Joseph. And for Moses, luckily, none of them are there. Want Moses dead, apparently. They don't remember. They're not the ones that remember what he did. But Pharaoh said, the king of Egypt said, "Who is my Lord?" Or who is the Lord? Why should I obey him and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, and I will not let Israel go. Well, things aren't shaping up the way Aaron and Moses had hoped, right? Their first request to the king, no. Then Aaron and Moses said, "The God of the Hebrews has met with us. Now let us travel 3 days into the desert to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God. If we don't do this, he may kill us with a disease or in war." But the king said to them, "Moses and Aaron, why are you taking the people away from their work? Go back to your jobs. There are very many Hebrews, and now you want them to quit working?" See, Pharaoh saw this as an economic intrusion. They were his workforce. They were the ones that were building the bricks for their great buildings that they were building. And so, again, he was looking at this from an economic standpoint. I can't give you a day off. Can't give you, let alone 3. We like to look at our time off as a very important thing. I think everyone at least has a day or two off a week from their work. And even if you're retired and you got all kinds of things going on around the house, you like to take a day or so off just sitting around doing nothing. You need time to relax and rest. All Moses and Aaron was asking for is, let's go, let our people go, and worship God in the desert for 3 days. And so the king did not take that on. He didn't like that idea. That same day, the king gave a command to the slave masters and foremen. He said, don't give people straw to make bricks as you used to. Let them gather their own straw. But they must still make the same number of bricks as they did before. Do not accept fewer. They have become lazy, and that is why they are asking me, let us go to offer sacrifices to our God. Make these people work harder and keep them busy. Then they will not have time to listen to the lies of Moses. Now, that's a bit of a different interpretation of what we understood God was saying to Moses and what Moses was saying. And so here you have a completely different take on it. And in verse 10, so the slave masters and foremen went to the Israelites and said, this is what the king says. I will no longer give you straw. Go and get your own straw wherever you can find it. But you must make as many bricks as you have made before. Now, as a side note here, as a guy who understands logistics and supply chains and stuff like that, the Israelites were compromising the quality of the bricks that were going to get made, in my opinion. Because when you stop giving like raw material and you say go find your own, there's no telling what you're going to get in that brick. They're going to find whatever they can find and whatever's available. And so, in my opinion, they really hurt their own selves as far as the production capability and the quality of the bricks. But, again, this is God's story, not my story. And so the people went everywhere in Egypt looking for dry stalks to use for straw. The slave masters kept forcing the people to work harder. They said, you must make just as many bricks as you did when you were given straw. The king's slave masters had made the Israelite foremen responsible for the work the people did. The Egyptian slave masters beat these men and asked them, why aren't you making as many bricks as you made in the past? So here you have Israeli foremen, slave masters. Their Egyptian taskmasters are beating them. So these men are responsible for delivering this product. They're responsible for making the folks there work. And so they're being hurt by these taskmasters. And so their job no longer is, instead of having to stomp out the bricks, they were counting the bricks that were delivering. They were doing the paperwork, if you will. They were doing the front office work. They were interacting. They were delivering products. And now they were being beaten. Their life was harder. Then the Israelite foreman, in verse 15, went to the king and complained, why are you treating us, your servants, this way? You give us no straw, but we are commanded to make bricks. Our slave masters beat us, but it is your own people's fault. The king answered, you are lazy. You don't want to work. This is why you asked to leave here and make sacrifices to the Lord. Now go back to work. We will not give you any straw, but you must make just as many bricks as you did before. When I see this, I say, man, this Pharaoh has gotten really hard-hearted. His logic, the logic that he is using to come to this conclusion is flawed. He's only hurting his nation. He's only hurting his workforce. But yet, he's become stubborn. He's become very stubborn. The Israelite foremen knew they were in trouble because the king had told them, You must make just as many bricks each day as you did before." As they were leaving the meeting with the king, they met Moses and Aaron, who were waiting for them. They said to Moses and Aaron, "May the Lord punish you. You caused the king and his officers to hate us. You have given them an excuse to kill us." So check this out. Moses and Aaron go before the king. "Let my people go." Pharaoh's response, "Give them no straw. They will not have time to listen to the lies of Moses." The Israelite foreman's response to Moses and Aaron, "May the Lord punish you. You caused the king and his officers to hate us. You have given them an excuse to kill us." Bit of a change, right? From the first day they met the Israelite leaders. The excitement that was going on when they first met them. Let's see. Get the right one. Yes, Wesley.
This should not have been a surprise at all to Moses, because in verse 21, chapter 4, God told Moses Pharaoh wasn't going to let him go. He was going to harden Pharaoh's heart. That's why Pharaoh's heart was so hardened, because God in his plan knew that these people weren't going to leave Egypt unless they had to. And he used Pharaoh as a tool to get ahead of it and plunder the whole country when he done it.
Yep. And Wesley just stole my next point. God had already warned Moses about this. God already said that.
Yeah, I was going to say about the same thing. In 421, God told Moses already that he's going to harden his heart. I wonder if he had mentioned that to the Israelites, if that would have changed their attitude.
I don't know. Because God had already told Moses he was going to harden Pharaoh's heart, did Moses tell the people that when he met with them the first time? It just doesn't say. It doesn't say at all. I would assume he would. Maybe that's a wrong assumption, but he didn't. There's no indication, rather, that he did. But think about it for a moment. Even if he had, and he gone up there and said, "Hey, I'm here to lead you out of bondage. I'm here to do this. Oh, by the way, God's going to make Pharaoh stubborn. It's going to take some time. We're going to be inconvenienced. You're going to have to work harder. And eventually, though, you're going to go." Now, which did they hear if he said that? "Hey, I'm going to lead you out of here"? Or did they hear, "I'm going to have to work harder"? And so I don't know. I mean, I can speculate and say how I feel. You can express your feelings. You might have, I do know that God already knew that the first miracle some will believe, the second miracle some others will believe, and then the third miracle will help others. But in this case, their condition got worse. And so now Moses and Aaron are to blame for their situation. And that, to the point that they're wanting, many of them are wanting to punish them. And so Moses complains to God. Then Moses returned to the Lord and said, "Lord, why have you brought this trouble on your people? Is this why you sent me here? I went to the king and said what you told me to say, but ever since that time he has made the people suffer, and you have done nothing to save them." Obviously, he forgot Exodus 3:19. "But I know that the king of Egypt will not let you go. Only a great power will force him to let you go." Moses forgot that, as has been pointed out. So, how would you like to take on a job? Oh, by the way, you have this new task, and you're going to go in there and fail right off the bat. It's going to take you 10 years to get out of there. Would you take that job? God's on your side, though. That's a tough one, isn't it? And now since Moses, is there with Aaron, he's confronted now with the king and the stubbornness of the king. The Lord's response to Moses' complaint: "Now you will see what I will do to the king of Egypt. I will use my great power against him, and he will let my people go. Because of my power, he will force them out of the country. Now think about what that phrase is saying. Lord's response to Moses, I will do to the king. I will use my great power against him, and he will force them out of the country. Who's the more powerful at this point? Pharaoh thought he was a very powerful man. And he was, if you have done any casual research of the Egyptians, the pharaohs were considered God, if you will, and they could do anything they want. The humorous, I find it humorous at least, the fact is that the pharaohs did die, and the next pharaoh thought they were God, and so there was that continuous dying going on back in those days. He didn't pay any attention, that's right. He thought he had power.
Fight back all the way.
Yeah. And so he became stubborn, and he said no. He said no to God, which created some challenges. Then God said to Moses, let's see if before I go any further, just remember something. This has already been spoken about in Genesis 45, 4 through 8. You recall that when Joseph revealed himself to his brothers, who he was the first time, he clearly said to him, so God sent me here ahead of you to make sure you have some descendants left on earth and to keep you alive in an amazing way. And so the theme is already set, and we're watching that amazing way. He affirmed that again after Jacob died, and his brothers were very concerned about the fact that now their father was dead, that Joseph was going to take revenge on him. But he said that you meant to hurt me, but God turned your evil into good to save the lives of many people, which is being done. And so remember, they're living through this. It's happening right there in an amazing way. And so whenever you get to this part where Moses actually goes to the king, it's pointed out to Moses again. He's reminded again, God's going to do this. You're just my messenger. You're just the person that's going to go forward and communicate to the Pharaoh for me, and then my power is going to influence what's going to happen. Verse 2 of Exodus 6. Let's see. Then God said to Moses, I am the Lord. I appeared to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the name God Almighty. But they did not know me by my name, the Lord. I also made my agreement with them to give them the land of Canaan. They lived in that land, but it was not their own. Now I have heard the cries of the Israelites, whom the Egyptians are treating as slaves. And I remember my agreement. So tell the people of Israel that I say to them, I am the Lord. I will save you from the hard work the Egyptians force you to do. I will make you free, so you will not be slaves to the Egyptians. I will free you by power, and I will punish the Egyptians terribly. I will make you my own people, and I will be your God. You will know that I am the Lord your God, the one who saved you from the hard work the Egyptians forced you to do. I will lead you to the land that I promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and I will give you that land to own. I am the Lord. So, that seems pretty definitive that the Lord's going to give them the land. Now, they got some walking to do. They've got some traveling to do. They've still got some things that are going to happen that are going to show them the great power of their God. There are going to be those that believe and are very enthusiastic and passionate about that belief. There are those that are going to be mediocre, and then there's those that are just not going to accept it, that are still going to doubt it. And we're going to see that unfold. So Moses told this to the Israelites, but they would not listen to him. They were discouraged, and their slavery was hard. Then the Lord said to Moses, go tell the king of Egypt that he must let the Israelites leave this land. But Moses answered, the Israelites will not listen to me. So surely the king will not listen to me either. I am not a good speaker. But the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron. This is important. This passage, when I came upon it, again, you're reading it last night, I realized actually all week I've been working on this, so it's hard. I shouldn't put it all on last night. I mean, I did some research last night, but what gets me about this is, but the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron and gave them orders about the Israelites and the king of Egypt. He commanded them to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. Now, I can relate to this in the sense of there have been times in my life in different careers where I've had a boss command me to do something. I get that. But here you have God commanding you. Moses used this, I am not a good speaker excuse. And did the Lord buy it? No, he commanded him. Even in his self-described weakness of being a poor speaker, God says, Moses and Aaron, you were commanded to lead my people out of Israel, out of Egypt. That's pretty direct, isn't it? He wasn't getting out of this, in other words. And so that's where we stop for a second. He's commanded. We just got a few minutes left. And so we're going to quickly do the next section. There it is. Anybody got questions? The interesting thing, it does give you, Levi was 137 years old. His son, Kohath, was 133. Amram was 137, who's the father of Moses and Aaron. I find this just an interesting passage. And these are the leaders at that time of the families of Israel. And so you can read through this and see the different nuances of the different family groups, but I like this chart because it actually does list everyone in that passage. And you can see as far as how it goes through here to Moses and Aaron, and then his sons there, Aaron's sons right there. And you notice in that passage, this passage, Moses' sons are not included in this particular passage. But we do know that Moses had two sons. And so in verse 26, this was the Aaron and Moses, talking about the two sons there, to whom the Lord said, lead the people of Israel out of Egypt by their divisions. Aaron and Moses are the ones who talked to the king of Egypt and told him to let the Israelites leave Egypt. So he'd been given directions. They were divided up in divisions. And so you'll see this as they go along their journey, that they work together as separate groups as they made their way out of Egypt. Any comments or questions, either this chart or anything else? Yes, sir.
On chapter 6, verse 3, did you do any research on that?
Not per se, but you guys comment on that?
No, just the question. What's the difference between God Almighty and Lord as far as any significance?
I'd have to do some further research on it. There's just the difference of nuance on that, but I can follow up on that. I just don't have it. I didn't do that research on that. Sorry about that. I'll look into that. Yes?
I thought about Moses when he said he didn't speak well enough. That data has proven that that's the greatest fear of most people, speaking in public.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I fear speaking in public also. It's one of those challenges, that everyone does. While I might appear comfortable, believe me, it's something that has come from years of doing it, but it is a challenge, and because what you say can be remembered or not. But public speaking could have been his fear. I think it was more of an excuse than it was a fear, but You know, that's just my speculation. Thank you. I appreciate your attention, and we'll see you next week. Yeah.